Okay, time now for a CNN reality check. Legal issues are swirling around the Trump White House.
You don't say.
You may have heard from us. But is that really any different from any other administration? CNN senior political analyst John Avlon here with a reality check. John?
Oh, yes, we could use one. Here, remember this, guys?
We need to drain the swamp.
Oh, drain the swamp. One of the Trump campaign's chief rallying cries, along with lock her up. Well, 19 months into the Trump administration, things seem swampier than ever. The president's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, and his personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, both convicted. His first national security advisor, Michael Flynn, pled guilty to lying to the FBI. So did foreign policy advisor George Papadopoulos, who's bragging about dirt about Hillary Clinton, kicked off the Russia investigation. And Manafort's deputy, Rick Gates. Well, with that crew, Trump is on a path to being in a class of his own, potentially rivaling Richard Nixon. Let me explain. Only one person in the Obama administration pled guilty to a crime, and it was a misdemeanor. Then CIA Director David Petraeus, who pled guilty to removing classified information in connection with an affair. George W. Bush, 8 members of his administration got caught up in the Jack Abramoff lobbying scandal. In all, there were 21 criminal convictions and guilty pleas and 10 prison sentences, including Dick Cheney's chief of staff, Scooter Libby, whose sentence was commuted by Bush and was later pardoned by President Trump. Now, Bill Clinton's administration was definitely beset by self-inflicted scandal. But in terms of actual convictions, there were only 2. Former HUD Secretary Henry Cisneros pled guilty to a misdemeanor for lying to investigators about payments to a former mistress. And a chief of staff in the Agriculture Department scooped up as part of the investigation into his boss, Mike Espy. Espy himself was acquitted on all counts and is currently running for Senate in Mississippi. Bush 41, only one conviction, but it was the U.S. Treasurer on charges of tax evasion, obstruction, and making false statements. Now, it might surprise some of Reagan's acolytes that his administration saw a whopping 24 convictions and guilty pleas, largely related to the Iran-Contra scandal. Now, some were saved from jail time thanks to pardons from Bush 41, who thought the investigation was politically motivated. Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford each saw 1 term and no criminal convictions during their terms, which brings us to Richard Nixon and Watergate. Major players were convicted, including the White House chief of staff and the former attorney general who served as campaign chairman. Not only that, but Vice President Spiro Agnew resigned in disgrace for accepting bribes. In all, dozens of Nixon administration and campaign aides were convicted, and at least 10 major figures served jail time. Nixon, of course, was pardoned by his successor, Gerald Ford. Now, all this is a reminder that every administration has its scandals and bad apples. But it also reveals that not every administration is the same when it comes to what Donald Trump once called, quote, a culture of government corruption. And less than 2 years into his administration, Trump may be on pace to equal or exceed the numbers set by his swampiest predecessor, Richard Nixon. And that's your reality check.
You may get tired of winning, at least when it comes to that race, yes?
Not a race you want to win.
Thank you very much for the reality check, John.